Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Medlock Post radio show, and I'm your host, Richard G. Medlock. Thank you for being with us today. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. Today is Monday, August 8th, 2022. The episode today is Build Back Better. Really? The views and opinions on the Medlock Post radio show are the views and opinions of the host. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. Ladies and gentlemen, since we were last broadcasting, so much has taken place. And I totally scrapped the show that I had prepared for today. It is not there's too many other things, important things to talk about. Those things are important, and we'll get to them tomorrow. But today, we need to talk about what is facing us. Matter of fact, it's a 2x4 that's hitting us in the face right now. And it is what the Democrat Socialist did to us yesterday in the Senate. They established socialism as their guiding light yesterday. We'll get into that, but there's a couple other things I want to go over before we get there that you need to know about. We educate here. That's what we do. Now, Friday, I think it was Friday afternoon, there was a lightning strike right next to the White House, a park next door, and killed 3 people and injured a 4th. They went huddling under a big tree. So I want to go over some lightning protocols. Folks, I've taught health and safety and wilderness survival for years and years and years. And there's certain things you do in a lightning storm, and one of them is do not get under a tree. That's the last place you want to be. You're really better off out in the open. Now, 10% of lightning strikes in the United States are fatal. 10%. And the lightning strikes are in 5 ways. A direct strike, and actually being struck by lightning. All right. And if you're carrying metal objects, even an umbrella, folks, if you have an umbrella that's got the metal shaft and the ribs that go out to hold the umbrella up, chuck it. Get rid of it. That's a lightning rod. All right. You can have a splash strike, where it strikes a tree, a building, and it jumps to the person. Well, that's what happened in the park Friday afternoon. It frequently kills animals. They've got 4 paws on the ground, and we're talking about basically wild animals, or not home animals. You can have a contact burn injury. You can have a person that's holding an object hit by strike. All right. Another thing you don't want to do is this is the ground current. Is you want to make sure you're not standing over a bunch of metal pipes. Now, you might not know that if you're in the city. Okay? Don't go up to a metal fence and stand near it. Lightning could strike a half a mile away, and that current go through that fence and hit you. Get away from metal objects. It can strike the ground nearby and spread. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been there. My father-in-law were out hiking one day, and lightning struck about 150 feet away and knocked he and I both on our keisters. It struck in front of us. I remember as a Boy Scout, we were up at Scout Camp one year, and on Friday we always went up and climbed Glassy Mountain, Friday afternoon. And or in the morning actually, and had lunch at the top of the mountain, came back down. Well, a lightning storm came in. And you know what they told us? Spread out and start running downhill and don't stop. And we all took off, spread out and took off. And if you're in a group, spread out. You want to be 40, 50, 100 feet apart if you're in a large group. And those things have happened, in baseball, a sports stadium and things like that. Shockwave. That's what knocked my father-in-law and I down. It can throw you. All right. So what we're looking at is a way to avoid having injuries from lightning. Are you going to stop all of them? No. Okay. I've had friends out on a lake when a storm came in, and they were in metal boats, and they got to shore as fast as they could. And sometimes those boats get struck. An aluminum canoe. That's why I won't buy an aluminum canoe. I always had a fiberglass because there was no metal in them. There's one rule to follow. It's called the 30-30 rule. And when you have your flash bang, you might see a flash, but you don't hear the bang for several seconds. Well, if you see the flash, start counting seconds. 1001, 1002. And if it gets to, you say 1007, then the storm is about 7 miles away. But you don't know how fast it's traveling. So you need to start preparing. So you have the first 30 is 30 seconds or more between lightning or thunder. At that point, seek safe shelter. The second 30, do not resume activity until 30 minutes after last time thunder is heard or lightning seen. So I've rarely seen 30 seconds in the beginning, the lightning and the thunder. It's normally been, the most I think I can remember is like 10, 12 seconds. But depending on how fast it's moving, it can be on top of you pretty quick. And especially in the summertime, you get these pop-up storms. They're not traveling. They just pop up. And that's what you're looking at. So the last place you want to be, ladies and gentlemen, in a storm is under a tree, around metal, around fences, standing on top of metal pipes if you know they're there. You want to get away from that stuff, preferably inside a building or inside a vehicle. Now, vehicles can get struck too, because they are metal, even though, well, they're sitting on rubber tires. Doesn't matter. Go on YouTube and look up cars struck by lightning going down the freeway. It'll blow your mind. Alrighty. So those are just some guidelines I wanted to start out with today. And we're going to move on to some crazy stuff today. We're going to break down this stupid bill that the Democrat Socialists just passed in the Senate that's going to go to the House. All right, sounds like it's time to go for a break, and we'll be back in just a minute or two. All right, we are back. This is the Medlock Post radio show, and this is Richard G. Medlock, your host. We're not messing around here, folks. We're tired of this destroying America. Now, I also want to mention a shout out to Barbara Arthur, who was on the show Friday, a refugee from Cuba, and gave us some great insight coming from communist Cuba into America, and what she is seeing happening in America happened in communist Cuba. And we need to be listening to more of those warnings, and that's what we're trying to do here, is to educate you on where we're going. Now I want to go back to this quote. Matter of fact, I'm going to save it till after this one piece. Did you know that Israel and Palestine are at war? They've been fighting for the last 3 days. Over 1,000 rockets have gone into Israel from Tel Aviv, including Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, from Palestine, from the Gaza Strip. They've been fighting each other. Now, 97% of the rockets were intercepted by the Iron Dome system. But the other 3% got in there. Why is this happening? Well, the United States, under Joe Biden, walked away from the Middle East, pulled our troops, everything, well, let's say he pulled our troops out. He left everything else for the Taliban. Planes, bombs, missiles, ammunition. He fully armed the Taliban. Just billions of dollars worth of military equipment he left there. Opened the door for these things to start happening. And Russia and China and Iran are taking control of the Middle East. We walked away, folks. So now Gaza, or the Palestinians, have decided, let's go after Israel. You know what? We don't think, here's their gamble here, we don't think the United States will back them under Joe Biden. Now that's a scary thought, folks. The Palestinians are taking a bet that the United States under Joe Biden will not back Israel. And you know what's scary? That might be a good bet. So now the last I saw right before we came on the air was there was a truce. So we'll see how long though that lasts. Normally not long. Quite a few Palestinians have been killed. Israel doesn't mess around. And folks, Israel has nukes. Yes, they do. Yep. I guess Egypt is in there trying to broker a ceasefire. And right now, I mean, Israel's winning this thing, hands down. But we'll see what happens. Netanyahu just wanted to blow them off the map. The Palestinian Liberation Organization. They're now called the PIJ, but they're still the same terrorist. And Hamas, that terror group, they're all the same. And they're funded by Russia and Iran, and probably China's in there now, and Turkey might be in there, and all sorts of things. So that's what we're looking at, folks. Alrighty. Go back to John Locke. I'm going to read this again. I'm going to keep reading it till it soaks into you what's going on. Now, speaking of John Locke, on August 29th, a Monday, 3 weeks from today, is his 390th birthday. We're going to do a special show that day about John Locke, his life, and his philosophies, and his teachings that the Founding Fathers used in concert with Cicero and others to put this country together, to develop a constitution based on freedoms. And this new bill that just got passed does not have one new freedom in there, but it has them taken away. And we'll go through those things to help you understand that. So John Locke, quote, "Whenever legislators endeavor to take away and destroy the property of the people or to reduce them to slavery under arbitrary power, they put themselves into a state of war with the people, who are thereupon absolved from any further obedience." Folks, memorize that. We are under siege from our own government here. These Democrat socialists and GOP socialists are at war with us. Now you're saying, well, nobody in the GOP voted for this bill. No, they didn't. But they worked some things into the bill that are socialist, that are not constitutional. So let's take another break real quick and then come back and delve into this. And it's going to shock you what some of this really is. And we are back. This is the Medlock Post radio show, and I'm your host, Richard G. Medlock. Build Back Better. And you're saying, no, the bill is Inflation Reduction Act. Folks, this is the Build Back Better bill. They just renamed it. A skunk by any other name is still a skunk. Folks, it still stinks. I was using that a nicer terminology, a skunk. This bill is a total lie. Everything that they're telling us is a total lie. And remember, these are my opinions, but other people believe the same way. Now, Kamala Harris had to cast the deciding vote. It was a 51-50 vote in the Senate. They pushed and pushed and pushed this thing, and the Democrat Socialists are dancing in the streets. This is our biggest victory. This will be the biggest piece of legislation known in years and years and years. And you know what? It will be, for how bad it is and what it's going to do to America. And nothing of it is good. And they're going to run on this bill in the election. And I say, bring it on, folks. So you tie this in with the chipmaker bill, which was a green energy bill, just another name, but also allowing the Chinese to still continue to steal all our technology. And I could go off on the Chinese. How did the Chinese, they got all these fancy missiles now. How did they get that technology? Bill Clinton gave it to them, or sold it to them. He forced corporations to give the technology to the Chinese so their missiles would work. They have better missiles than we do now. It's just unbelievable. This is Chuck Schumer. I better say quote, "It's been a long, tough, and winding road, but at last we have arrived. I know it's been a long day and a long night, but we've gotten it done today. After more than a year of hard work, the Senate is making history. I am confident the Inflation Reduction Act will endure as one of the defining legislative feats of the 21st century." And yes, Mr. Schumer, it will. Because it is taking more steps to destroy the Constitution, more steps to cause inflation, more steps to do away with fossil fuels, more steps to ruin the middle class and the poor, more steps to make certain corporations richer. You want to talk about white supremacy? Let's talk about the Democrat Socialists who keep feeding more and more of our taxpayer money into their friends' pockets, and nothing comes out of it. Remember Solyndra under Obama and other green energy companies that just went bust? The only one survived was Tesla. You say Tesla? Well, Elon Musk built that with money from Obama. Do you guys really think that Elon Musk is that smart? Do you? I don't. I really don't. The 755-page bill. It's interesting. This is 755 pages. The chipmaker bill was 1,000 pages. Now, why the difference? Because the details of the green energy were in the chipmaker bill and not in this one. This provides the funding for it, as well as the chipmaker bill. You see this? This is the cards they are playing. They're going to peck away, peck away, peck away. Here's one bill. I said this a couple of weeks ago. They're going to do it one little bill at a time until they have all the pieces put together. And they're doing it. They're chipping away, and Mitch McConnell and the GOP Socialists in the Senate are sitting there twiddling their thumbs and just, oh, that sounds good, let's do it. This is what we're dealing with. The GOP is spineless, especially in the Senate. Mitch McConnell is a socialist, and he's shown it year after year after year. I've never liked him, even when he was just a senator. All right, $300 billion, and listen to this in the wording. It's really kind of interesting how they put this together, and when you break this down, it should scare the snarfles out of you. The bulk of the spending, more than $300 billion, are investments to tackle climate change and boost clean energy, including incentives, now get this folks, for farmers and ranchers to reduce methane emissions. Folks, what is a methane emission? It's a cow fart. It's a sheep fart. They've been claiming all these years that these methane emissions cause damage to our climate. And there's no scientific fact for it. There's no scientific fact, period, for this climate change garbage they're throwing at us. It's been refuted over and over and over by good scientists. Even NASA scientists and National Oceanographic and Astronomical Agency, they come out and said, hey, none of this makes sense. I'm not even a scientist, and I can disprove it. An extension of the electric vehicle tax credit. Oh, did you know that had gone away? Well, now it's back. A tax credit for buying an electric vehicle. Well, isn't that kind of discriminatory? That people that own electric vehicles get a tax credit and nobody else gets a tax credit? I think it's discriminatory. And the launch, now get this folks, developing a national climate bank that would make investments in clean energy technologies and energy efficiency. Well, how are they going to fund this national climate bank? The government doesn't have any money. The government doesn't produce anything. The government just creates more agencies. So now they're going to create a national climate bank that's going to invest in clean energy technologies and energy efficiency. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the United States is the most energy efficient country in the world. Our greenhouse emissions are under 1%. China's like at 20-30%. Or something like that. But it's high. It could only be 9%, but it's high. All these, this is just one little bullet point. What are they trying to do to farmers and ranchers? Folks, they're trying to do away with cows and horses and sheep. Do you understand this? They don't want you eating meat. They want everybody to be a vegetarian. And there's articles out there about this. They want to do away with this. This is part of the Agenda 21 we talked about a while back, part of the United Nations Agenda 21. This is insanity, folks. This is called radicalism. A national climate bank. Wow. How many trillions of dollars are going to be slush funded through that? Or laundered through that? Now, the legislation would empower Medicare to negotiate prices with drug companies for the first time. That is a lie. Donald Trump did that and was very successful. This is not the first time. They keep lying to us. They want us to forget the good things that Donald Trump did. All right, so let me hold that thought, and we will go to a break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Thank you for hanging on. Yeah, I'm fired up today. I'm mad. This is the Medlock Post radio show, and this is Richard G. Medlock, your host. Now, yeah, I'm mad. We have the GOP in the Senate playing possum, just rolling over, going to sleep. We have the Democrat Socialist destroying the Constitution, destroying freedom, destroying the American way of life as we know it. They're going to be running up inflation. When you start spending another $2 trillion, you will run up inflation. Now, we get the CPI report out Wednesday, Consumer Price Index, and the Producer Price Index will come out Thursday. The projection by economists for Wednesday is 10.4%. It was 10.1 last month. So if it's 10.4%, that means inflation's still going up. Well, but gas prices are going down. Yeah, so? But everything else is still going up. When's the last time you've been to the grocery store, folks? And Walmart's last week, when they gave their earnings report, they said people aren't buying the high-priced goods anymore. They're not buying the clothes and the other things. They're buying food and medicine and the things that they just need. Walmart said we need to lower prices to get those other things moving. Because people are they're smart. Hey, I've only got X number of dollars to spend. We talked last week that in the last quarter, personal credit card debt went up $100 billion, or 13%. Savings are being drawn down so people can live. Our family went to Chick-fil-A Saturday. I had a bunch of reward points on my app, and it pretty much paid for our lunch. You know, they build up, you go in and get a bunch of free stuff. I mean, you did pay for it over time. But we were there, and we were talking to the lady that was working the room. We were dining in, and we started talking to her. She started talking about inflation and how it's hurting her. She says, I'm probably going to have to get a second job so I can pay my bills. She said, this inflation's killing me. I didn't want to say, well, if they pass this bill, which they now have, inflation's going up more. And pay is losing ground against inflation. Yeah, people are getting raises. They might be getting a 3 or 4% raise, but inflation's at 10%. Real inflation's probably at 16, 17%. They're just not going to tell us that. All right, let me get back to this. Medicare. Empower Medicare to negotiate with drug companies. Well, folks, they had that under Trump. Cutting prescription drug prices for seniors. Folks, I can tell you right now, drug prices are not going down. They're going up. And they will go up more under this. You know why? Because if seniors are paying less for drugs through Medicare, they're going to charge other people more to make up the difference. Now, don't give me this stuff that the farm pharmacy companies are raping everybody and they're making tons of money. I don't want to hear that. I'm talking about the play here, basic economics, that happens when government gets involved. And this is a socialist act, a socialist government forcing prescription companies to negotiate, lower their prices to seniors, and everybody else is going to pay the cost. The savings would help pay for a 3-year extension of Affordable Care Act subsidies, which would have gone away next year. So this act extends the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. I want to ask a question here. How many of you have saved $2,500 a year in premiums since Obamacare took place? How many of you were able to keep your doctor? How many of you have a better insurance policy because of Obamacare? How many of you have actually saved money because of Obamacare? The answer is no. Obama stood there and lied to us, bold-faced lied about all these things. And I can tell you firsthand, my doctors, my family doctors that our family went to, they put up with it for a year. When it really kicked in, he and his partner, and they were at the age to retire, they wanted to work one more year. But when Obamacare people walked in the front door and started making demands, and you got to do this and you got to do that, they said no, because that's coming right out of our retirement money, and we're not going to do it. They sold their practice and retired. I had to go find another doctor, and I found a really good doctor, an internist. But folks, a lot of doctors retired. How many hospitals in rural areas were shut down because they couldn't afford the cost of Obamacare? This is what socialism does. It tears down a society. It takes good things away. They're doing the same thing here. The package includes a cap on the price of insulin for seniors on Medicare. That's if you buy prescription insurance. Now, Republicans took it out, the $35 cap, for the private market. Now, here again, and you can say good or bad things about that, and this cap, here we are looking at, with Medicare and with insulin and all of this and the prescription, we are looking at price controls from the government. Price controls. They never work. Richard Nixon tried it in the 70s, and it blew up in his face in like 3 months. 3-4 months. Blew up. They don't work. They only cause problems. The bill also raises revenue through a new 15% minimum tax on large corporations through accelerated depreciation, though accelerated depreciation would be exempted. Now Senator Sinema from Arizona, Democrat, extracted several tax chart changes before she was able to get out that those pass-through loopholes that they called for small businesses, LLCs, and what's the other one? S1. I can't remember. I had those companies, but anyway, she was able to get that out because that was a tax increase on small businesses, and it was going to kill them. At least she did something good, but she passed the rest of it, which was no good. She should have stood her ground and said, hey, I'm not going for this. Manchin fell for their lies. They're not going to give him what he wants in West Virginia. They've already come out and said, no, we're not doing that. Sinema also killed a provision to close the carried interest tax loophole that benefits private equity and hedge fund managers. It was replaced by a 1% excise tax on stock buybacks that actually pulls in more revenue than the carried interest provision. See, a tax increase. So if a corporation wants to do stock buybacks, which they do all the time, then they have to pay an excise tax to the government to buy back their own stock. And we're talking billions of dollars. When you add it all up through these corporations, higher taxes. So when a corporation pays taxes, what do? They pass it on to consumers. When pharmacy companies have to lower taxes to or prescription drugs to seniors, they pass it on to the regular consumers. It's Econ 101, folks. It's not hard to follow. It really isn't. And it sounds like it's break time again, and which is good. I need a drink of water. So hold on, and we will be right back. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, listening to Lunar Vibrations and listening to Medlock Post radio show. And this is Richard Medlock, your host. Yeah, I needed to calm down there for a second. This is a socialist bill, part of piecing a socialist constitution together to destroy America. It's crazy what is happening here. I lost my place. Hold on here. All right. Okay, that's not right there. What does another thing this bill does? It gives $87 billion to the Internal Revenue Service. Why? Why does the Revenue Service, Internal Revenue, need $87 billion to add more people? Well, it's interesting. It's going to, well, here, let me do this. It's kind of a summary of the bill. We'll hand out hundreds of billions in Solyndra-type loans. Now, there were companies, I read an article Friday afternoon, and don't ask me to name the companies. I'd have to go back and look it up. This was on CNBC.com. All these companies that have been sitting there waiting for this legislation to pass because they're going to make billions of dollars. Their stock's going to go up. Oh yeah, boy, we're in it now. Okay, so watch out for Solyndra. Raises taxes during a recession, spends billions more during a recession, and when they say billions, it's going to be trillions, folks. Makes our power bills more expensive, makes gasoline more expensive, doubles the amount of IRS agents. This will greatly impact the middle and lower classes, increases healthcare costs. What are we missing? Folks, what are we missing? Now, let's go back to the IRS. Let's focus on this part of it. $45.6 billion will go to enforcement. Enforce what? The tax laws? Oh, we're going to go after the billionaires. Well, there's only a handful of billionaires. Why do you need 80,000 new auditors to go after a handful of people? They're not going after the billionaires. They're going after those that oppose socialism. Back to that. Business systems moderation, $4.8 billion. So they're going to upgrade their computer systems, I guess. Operations, $25 billion. As if they don't already have a budget and they're operating okay. They're throwing another $25 billion. Folks, this is loading up a system that's already loaded up. Remember Lois Lerner, who headed the IRS under Obama? And when the Tea Party came around and all these PACs went in there and these organizations wanted to go in and register as 501c3s or 501c4s, as conservative, as Tea Parties, so they could go out and fight what was going on, and Lois Lerner refused to approve their applications, every one of them. And all of a sudden, when there was pushback on it, and the Republicans wanted the documents, the documents have disappeared, or they were accidentally destroyed, or we're not sure what happened. Well, we're not doing that. Apparently we lost their document, their application. If they'll send another one in, none of those organizations got tax-free or 501c3 status. This is what the IRS does. It intimidates. This is $45 billion going to intimidation of those that will not fall in line with Marxism. Understand that. This is an army that they're putting together. And more. There's charts out there to go through all this. The Congressional Budget Office has come out with their report. Everything about this bill, the CBO came out and said it's a bad bill. A bunch of economists have come out and said it's a bad bill. It's not good. It's going to cause more inflation. It's not going to reduce inflation. But the Democrats, Socialists don't care. They want a system in place to move forward with socialism that will move to communism, that will move to globalism. That is why the establishment in Washington, D.C. is scared to death of Trump getting back in office. They lose sleep at night how to keep him from getting back in power in the White House. Because he's going to come in, and this time he will clean house. He didn't do it before because a bunch of GOP socialists were guiding him, and he got caught in their trap. This time he's going to come in, he's going to do it his way, and he's going to clean house. He's going to fire all these people. And that's what he should have done last time. We tried to tell him, no, do not put Jeff Sessions in as Attorney General. He's one of the establishment players. And it cost him. It cost Trump. But the CBO came out in their report, and it said the measures of the $470 billion Inflation Act would have a marginal to negative impact on inflation. This is their, and this was, they called it the Build Back Better Act. Estimates of the deficit reduction was lowered by $11 billion over 2022 through 2031. $11 billion over 10 years. That's $1 billion a year. They spend $1 billion in 30 minutes, 10 minutes. So the reduction is nothing. And the director of the CBO, Philip Swagel, If the bill passes, then in calendar year 2023, inflation would probably be between 0.1 percentage point lower and 0.1 percentage point higher under the bill than it would be under current law. So nothing. This has zero impact. They just changed the name to make people think, oh, this is a good bill for us. And oh, they're going to fix climate change. Schumer further states, the Senate has now passed the most significant bill to fight the climate crisis ever, and it's going to make a difference to my grandkids. The world will be a better place for my grandchildren because of what we did today, and what makes me feel very, very good. I'm so happy, Chuck Schumer, that you feel good for your grandchildren. Bernie Sanders said it will have a minimal impact on inflation. He didn't want this bill, folks, until they gave him some things he wanted. Sanders says, and other economic organizations that have studied this bill, it will have a minimal impact. We just said that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are in America. We have a government that wants to destroy America, and they're doing a darn good job of it. And we cannot let this continue. And folks, I'm not done here yet today. Hang on. It sounds like we got to have another break here. I hear the music. Can you hear it? There it is. Okay. Let's take another break, and then we'll do the last segment of the Medlock Post radio show. All right, we are back from commercial breaks. This is the Medlock Post radio show, and I'm your host, Richard G. Medlock. This is quite the day, folks. America took a big hit yesterday. The House will pass it. Nancy Pelosi will see to that. It'll be interesting to see if any GOP votes for this bill. They're on recess right now. They'll be back Friday. And that's the first thing they're going to do. They're probably not even going to have discussions on it. Well, I don't know. I think they have to do that. My good friend, Tom Herron, the creator and CEO of Up With America, and you can check out his website, upwithamerica.org, and his Facebook page, his group, Up With America, which I do a lot of posting on. He and I go way back, and we've had a lot of discussions about all of these things, continue to have them. And he's getting ready soon, in probably in September sometime, with a big announcement with Up With America, and we're going to get him on the show in the next week or two and talk about Up With America and some of his thoughts about things. And then his big announcement will come in September. We'll get him back on here. I want him to be a regular. I haven't had him on so far. He's just been so busy taking Up With America to the next level. And I'm happy to say I have a small part of that. But anyway, Tom sent me an email Saturday. He's always doing this. And he says, as of today, August 7th, well, excuse me, that was yesterday. Yesterday morning I got this. Less than 100 days prior to the most important midterm elections of our lives, relatively independent polls report that Democrats and Republicans up for election or re-election on November 8th are apparently in a dead heat. This, when tradition holds, the party out of power picks up seats, often many seats. When America is in what most of us would agree is a political, cultural, and economic nightmare, and a battle for its very soul and existence, and when all 435 members of the U.S. House of Representatives and 34 of 100 U.S. Senators are up for election. In short, it appears the predicted red wave has crashed way offshore. Well, folks, that was a question. Okay. He says, number one, is this also true in your jurisdiction state? Number two, what do you believe are the reasons for this surprising revelation? Number three, can this be turned around, presuming you would prefer the GOP take control of one or both houses of Congress? Okay, so I had to think about this for a little bit. I knew some of my answers right off the bat. Remember last week I told you that Trump is 153-10 in endorsed candidates in GOP primaries. And I said, watch the media, watch the polls. They will start making it look like those running for office with Trump endorsements will not have a chance to win. And it started already. And this is what Tom was seeing. They're going to pop out all these polls showing Republicans aren't doing so well. Democrats are coming back. And they're going to show that after this bill passes and say, oh, people love the bill and they love what the Democrats are doing. Watch for those polls, folks. Look at the polls going into the 2020 election and even 2016. They had Hillary Clinton winning. They had Biden winning. And all this stuff, okay? Polls lie. They make them up. And so anyway, I'm going to give you my response to Tom's question. Number one, nothing is guaranteed in politics. And I know you're probably sitting there laughing, boy, is that true? And yes, it is. Number two, the trend to favor or tighten the November elections has been taking place over the last 2 or 3 weeks. These are general polls and are not specific to individual races. Going back to the polls he was referring to, it was just Democrat, Republican. All right. Back to my answer. The Democratic Socialists know they are in a bad position to defend their radical economic, border, and foreign policies. Inflation, along with the radical climate change policy to shut down fossil fuels, are turning many against the left. People remember the Trump policies that brought about, flip my page here, prosperity and jobs. They want that again, whether it is under Trump or someone chosen by him to carry out the American First policies. Number three, several lower court judges and a couple of state Supreme Courts have ruled mail-in ballots are illegal. There is a case in front of SCOTUS concerning the state's rights under the Constitution to make all election laws through the state legislature, not an attorney general or governor making up rules at the last minute. Number four, Democratic Socialists have cheated in elections for 40 years or more. They will keep trying. Number five, the socialist media wants to convince people, especially their own voters, that all is good within the party, thereby the false polls. Number six, Hispanics and blacks are moving away from the DNC in big numbers. Independents are strongly in favor of America First policies. Number seven, All these new socialist bills that are being passed will turn many more Americans away from the radical democratic socialist agenda. Number 8. There still might be a slight chance the socialists and globalists pull off something and we don't have an election in November. And I put in parentheses, long shot. What I'm saying there, will they create something that they will say, oh, we're holding off the elections? Okay, that's a long shot. Number 9, there are strong feelings that if the Biden administration and the Department of Justice go after Trump on criminal charges, the Democratic Socialists are done for good. Most people know it is a witch hunt and all phony. And we've talked about that. There's a lot of talk out there about if Trump gets criminally charged, that the pushback by Americans on the Democrats are going to be unheard of in American history. And it should be. Number 10, never give up on America, because we, the people, are the power. And we're stepping up, and we're speaking up, and we're not going to give up. That is America. That's who we are, folks. We're not giving up. We're going to keep this fight going. We're not going to let these socialists ruin America. And Chuck Schumer and Pelosi and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and George Soros, just, you're not going to win. We're not going to let you win. And that, folks, is a Medlock Post for today. May God bless America.